Hello, English 102 Composition and Literature students. Professor Berninger here, in case you didn't recognize me. Starting the wrap-up of Henrik Ibsen's super classic play, A Doll's House. At any given moment in the world, there's probably a production of A Doll's House going on. It is a real classic of Western literature. He was a playwright, a Norwegian playwright. So you guys read the play in English. Didn't want to try to make you read it in Norwegian. That's a little tricky for all of us. But it is a very well-known play. Nora is one of the most famous characters in all of literature. And the end of the play, the slamming or closing of that door, is one of the most famous sounds in all of literature. Just a quick note on what Ibsen did as a breakthrough playwright. Some of you studied maybe Greek drama, where there's a chorus and gods and all sorts of things happening. Shakespeare, where characters come out to be or not to be, and they just kind of talk into the audience. That's cool, but it's not very realistic unless you're an English professor just talking into a camera. But Ibsen really brought in a very realistic type of play, and believe it or not, this was new. He pretty much removes the fourth wall. So when you look at a lot of plays today, most television programs set indoors, there are three walls. The fourth wall's missing, and there's a camera. This doesn't seem like radical stuff to us, but Ibsen was the first playwright to do that, to really just have people in their homes doing fairly ordinary things. It's pretty cool, and it's still with us today. So just to follow up a little bit on our excellent class discussion the other day, thank all of you who participate in the chat during our virtual classroom. Nora had a secret life of work. That's very important. So first off, let's back up a little bit. So Nora wants to save her husband Torvald's life. This is about 8 years ago, before the time of the play. He had probably lung problems, and the cure was to get him out of Norway and down to Italy, where the air was a little warmer and a little better. They didn't have the money. Of course, he's too cheap to ever borrow money. So Nora, even though it was not proper, maybe even legal for a woman to borrow money at the time, Nora goes and borrows money from Nils Krogsstad, who's a bit of a loan shark. And her father should have signed for it because a woman couldn't borrow money on her own. But the father was very ill, and then he died, and then Nora forged the father's signature and put the date after the father died. So she wasn't really a very good forger, signing someone else's signature. You don't want to put a date on there after the person is dead, just for the record. But it works fine. Torvald's cured. Years go by. Nora is making almost all the payments on time, right? She has a secret life of sewing and copying, and she takes what allowance Torvald gives her to pay back the loan, right? And she's doing a good job with it, secretly. Torvald treats her like a doll, like a child, just as her father treated her like a doll. And like a child. They have a couple of children, and then Torvald gets a promotion to bank manager. Christine Lind comes to town. Torvald fires Krogsstad because Krogsstad was treating him more like a peer than a boss. A little petty Torvald, to say the least. Christine's looking for a job, so Christine gets Nils's job at the bank. Very convenient, right? Nils gets fired. Christine's looking for a job. Well, Krogsstad isn't happy about that. So he blackmails Nora, says, hey, Nora, I'm going to out you as an illegal money borrower and forger, and it will ruin your reputation. Get my job back, otherwise I will reveal that information. Nora tries to do that, but Torvald, of course, he's not going to listen to his wife about much of anything, more or less a business matter. So Krogsstad does what he has to do. He takes the letter. Let's see, get a sample letter here somewhere. Need props. All right, this would be a good prop for our sample letter. Krogsstad takes the letter, which threatens to expose the Helmer household as forgers, money borrowers, and he takes the letter and he slips it into the mailbox in the doorway mailbox of the Helmer household. The evidence is in the box. Maybe not the evidence. The letter is in the box. Christine and then Nils have a little chat, and she says, "Hey, let's team up here, Nils. I'll keep my job at the bank. You can stay home with the kids. We'll all be happy." And Nils is like, "That's so great, honey. I'm all in love. I'm going to go get that letter back, the blackmail letter. Tell Torvald it was a mistake, and then we'll go have our little life, and they can go back to their little life." And Christine says, "No, not going to happen." She says, "I've seen remarkable things in this house, secrets. The truth must come out. Leave the letter." And of course, Krogsstad's all in love, so he's like, "Okay, dear. Yes, dear." And the letter is still in the mailbox. Now, we talked last time about whether you agree or disagree with that. I do think that Mrs. Linden, as she's called in this translation, if I call her Lind, it's the same thing, Linden, same character. I know that she has Nora's best interest at heart. Okay, she's not being malicious. Sometimes people think that. She's not being mean. However, it still doesn't mean you should kind of meddle in other people's lives. Now, the playwright wants us to think it's okay, because notice the letter is in the mailbox, and she just tells Krogsstad not to take it back, right? She doesn't tell him to put it there. She tells him not to take it back. So that is where we are going to sort of pick up with some details in the play. The letter's in the mailbox. Nora tries to distract Torvald with some bad dancing, because she knows he can't resist correcting her. She tries to pick the lock. She doesn't even have a key to the mailbox. She's a very oppressed woman, as all women were at the time. Don't forget, we talked about that in class. Torvald Helmer is a man of his time. He's not a bad guy. He's just being a guy from the 1870s. So the letter is in the box. Nora just can't get it, and eventually Torvald gets the letter out. He goes into his study to read the letter, and that is where we will pick up in a moment.